Hey, what's up guys, and welcome back to Harrison's Garage. My name is Harrison, and in today's video we're going to be installing some cab lights. Before we jump into things today, if you haven't already, take a moment to subscribe to the channel and like this video. Now, what we're going to be doing today is installing some aftermarket cab lights, specifically by Boost Auto parts. On my 2021 Ram, I had switchback lights on my tow mirrors made by Boost Auto. At the time, they did not sell or market cab lights. Now, they are still coming out with a cab light design for trucks that do not yet have cab lights from the factory. However, they've just released their cab light sort of replacement for the factory cab light. Now, what that means is these are designed to go into the square opening on your 5th gen or 4.5 gen Ram HD truck in the sort of cab light cutout on the roof from the factory. Now, full disclosure, this video is sponsored by Boost Auto Parts. They reached out to me, asked if I'd be interested in partnering with them to test these guys out, run through an install of these lights at home, bring you guys along with me, and show you guys what I think of them. Now, if you are interested in purchasing a set of these lights for yourself, I will have a link down in the description below. It helps me out, helps this channel out, and obviously helps out Boost Auto. So I'll go ahead, bring you in close, and kind of show you what comes with this kit when you do order it from them. Okay, so what I've optioned for is their S-Series cab lights for the 19 to 24 Dodge Ram 3500s in the sequential switchback option. So what that means is they are going to be white running lights with a amber turn signal light built into the cab light. So when you put on your turn signal, the cab lights, the sort of, say you put on your left turn signal, the left 3 lights will blink. I've also optioned for the sequential turn signal, where it's sort of a sequence rather than just one flash for the turn signal. Oh, and I've also optioned for the startup sequence, for when you start the truck up, they will do a sort of interesting, neat flashing little sequence. I will try and get a shot of that at the end of the video when they're all installed. Again, I'll have a link for all of this stuff below, and you guys can check it out on their website. So it comes with this little cozy and the Boost Auto decal there. I've also decided to pull out some wire loom and some of my own T-taps just for this, which we'll get into in a minute. So first thing we're going to look at is the cab lights themselves. Now, when you order these, you have the option of just getting amber running lights or white running lights and not doing any of the switchback, in which case all of these wiring harnesses and boxes will not be necessary and they won't be shipped to you. You'll just get these lights. Now, you'll notice they're numbered. I believe in their initial sort of install video, they have them numbered, but not quite as obviously. If you pull these guys out, this is number 1. It's really, really sort of obvious here on this cab light. There you go, that it's number 1. I think in some of their prototype lights, it was kind of hidden behind this foam weather seal. Now, this weather seal is much thicker than the cab lights that I've seen in the past and worked with in the past. I'm hopeful that no silicon RTV will be necessary here to ensure that there's no leaking. If we pull this back a little bit, just kind of get a sense of what the light will look like. It is a polished black sort of plastic with a sort of very bright singular LED that shines forward on the top of the light. So it will look very, very sleek on the truck there. I'm going to go ahead and put this one back. Now, the numbers sort of specify which cab light goes where. They're not interchangeable. They are specifically designed and contoured to be installed on one specific spot on the truck. So number 1 is supposed to go on the passenger side. So essentially, if you're sitting in the cab, this will go on the far right. Number 5 will go on the far left, and these will go in between. So far right, second most right, middle left, most left. Hopefully that makes sense. You get a group of screws, 5 screws and 5 rubber washers. These will install into the factory screw holes. This clip will clip into the factory square hole, and clip in the roof. So we'll go ahead and open up the other box before we jump into the install and removal of the factory cab lights currently on the truck. Put that out of the way. Come over here now. We've got the second box, which you will receive, which is the S-Series sort of cab light module. if you order the sort of turn signal or sequential switchback. And this is their S series module. It's got quite a few things we'll go over in a little bit more detail during the install. Essentially, it's got a signal. I believe this is signal out, and this is signal in. This is power and ground in. So you're going to have 3 wires here. There's an orange wire that taps into the existing wire harness. Again, I'll show you this in more detail once we're there. These 2 wires below, this red and green wire in the middle, a red and blue wire, that will tap into the signal. There's actually power and signal on the turn signal wire coming from your respective turn signals under the hood. And then of course a power and ground. You'll have this harness, which is fairly lengthy. It's going to connect to this 3-wire harness here and run underneath, behind the glove box, through and behind the center console and through the firewall. You'll also have this power and ground harness that will follow this one through the firewall into the engine bay. You'll have an assortment of connectors, an inline fuse, which I will probably replace with my own. I just don't like the look of this. I like the sort of actual inline fuse. I don't want it to come in and then out. But essentially this is a fuse connector. If we pop the lid, take a look at the fuse. It's just a typical 5-amp mini fuse here. You can see. So if you want to do or run a different inline fuse like I plan on doing, any type of 5-amp inline fuse should work. You're going to have your sort of standard T-tap here. This is a T-tap for a blade connector. I've not had the best of luck with these. They tend to work loose over time. You can't really heat shrink these super well. I plan on using these guys, which I've had left over from old installs in the past. It's also a T-tap, even though it just looks kind of like a barrel. But that being said, the T-taps right in the kit will work fine. I just think these will work a little bit better for me. Okay, so that is the S series module and the wiring harnesses as provided by Boost Auto. Again, this whole install is brought to you, sponsored by Boost Auto. They reached out to me, provided all of this to me, asking me to sort of test it out, review it, and bring it to you all. If you have any questions, again, throw them in the comments. Let's go ahead and jump into this install. Okay, beginning the install now, and the first thing you want to do is disconnect your battery. If you have 2 batteries, make sure and disconnect them both. So once you got the batteries disconnected, we're going to go ahead, move up to the roof, and start with the cab lights. Now, we're going to start, or at least I'm going to start probably on the driver's side, just because that's the easiest for me to reach, with the number 5 cab light. Number 5 is going to go here, 4, 3, 2, and way over there, passenger side, is 1. Now, I touched on this briefly already, but if you ordered just the amber or white running lights, you're not going to receive any of this, you're not going to need any of that, and your install is a lot faster. I'm going to be doing the whole thing, so if you do have the sequential or the switchback, stay tuned. We're going to get to that for you as well. Okay, we are up on the cab now, I guess on the roof. We have the sort of driver's far leftmost cab light. If you're trying to orient yourself, this is the front of the truck, this is the rear of the truck. We're on the driver's side. Again, this is held on with a singular T20 Torx screw. And if you're trying to wonder how tight these are from the factory, how tight we're going to be making them, it's not very. We don't want to over tighten these. If you do, you'll crush the gasket. The gasket will be useless. You get water coming in. We're just going to put this in so that the small lever arm is up, and we're just going to torque it, and it should come loose. If you're tightening it more than that, you've over tightened it when you put the aftermarket ones on. So go ahead and back this all the way out. Once you got your screw backed out, you'll see factory has this sort of conical plastic washer that's been crushed and is cracked, so I'm not sure how much longer that would have lasted, but seems to have been fine so far. So what we're going to do to get this thing popped off is use a microfiber towel and a non-marring pry bar. We're going to set the microfiber right up against the base of the light and get the pry bar just under there. That way when we pry back, we're not going to damage the paint any. Just gonna pry back, lift this up. And then once you got it popped up, you should just slide it back and up and out. So that is the factory light removed. Okay, now that we've got the sort of white pin here pulled back a little bit, do be careful. You don't want to pull too hard, it can pop out. Now you got to pull back a little bit. You're going to push down on this white pin to release this clip and then work the harness free from the light. Like so. So now you got your factory OEM lights off. Go ahead and grab your new Boost Auto Parts cab light. Again, we're going to grab number 5 and we're going to put it on here. Before we do that, I'm going to take a moment, grab a different microfiber cloth, clean this up, get rid of the factory residue, and then place the new one down. Now, you don't have to clean the factory, or you clean this residue off that the factory light left. I'm just of the opinion that doing so will enable the gasket to seal just that much better. Okay, so now we're going to grab the Boost Auto Parts cab light. Just for comparison's sake, here's the 2 cab lights. Roughly the same size and length. Boost Auto Parts has a lot higher sheen, gloss, all black top, a little bit wider. So I'm going to go ahead and get this clipped in. Uses the factory connector. So we're just going to go ahead, line up this connection with the clip, push that on, push the tab in place, drop this in, and we've got these, I guess I should say, on the factory cab light here, you've got these 2 clips that hold it in place that we're prying up against. You have the exact same style clips right here on the Boost Auto Parts one. So we're going to put the front end in first, engage this front clip, and then screw it down to lock it into position. What you'll need to do is press down firm, slide forward, and then press down here. Grab your screw that came with the kit along with the rubber washer, thread it into position, and just start those threads. So there it is, sort of mounted, installed, plugged in. You guys down here to look at it. Bring it nice and flush with the roof. You can see there's the gasket. It sits off the roof a little bit. And then from the front, I think these will look a lot sleeker than the factory lights. The one sort of, I don't know, drawback that I've seen so far from these is that if you look from the top down, the factory light protrudes rearward more, and you have this area that you need to clean up. Otherwise, this light is much larger in every other direction, so you don't have any of that residue sticking there. Now you'll see this hard line here is on my PPF, which was installed and cut around the cab lights, so I'm going to have that, but hopefully I can get this cleaned up and polished out there. So I'm going to kind of speed through the other 4 off camera and basically repeat the same process for all of those, getting them cleaned up, removed, replaced, and then I will meet back up with you on the passenger side down by the door to work on installing the S-Series module shortly thereafter. All right guys, it is a different day. I've gotten all 5 cab lights mounted, and now I am ready to start working on hooking up the S-Series module to complete this install here. So I'm going to go ahead and bring you guys up close and show you what I've started to do with the wiring harnesses to get them ready. Now, as it comes from Boost Auto, all the wires are just sort of exposed. I prefer a sort of a wire harness look. It's just cleaner, keeps the wires bundled together, and in terms of longevity, keeps them from rubbing on things and potentially wearing through that sort of outer sheathing. Now, I guess the nice part about having all the wires come unbundled, unharnessed, is that it gives you the freedom to make your own harness. Of course, you then have to go do that you have to buy the wire sheathing and make it yourself. So I will show you what I'm going to do on my install, and if you like what I'm doing, you can do the same. Okay, so I've got our 2 wire connectors, our S-series module, and to just kind of describe what's going on here real quick. The 3 wire connector, we've got a cab light signal wire. Essentially, are the cab lights on? That's what this is for. These 2 other wires are going to be turn signal power wires. Are the turn signals on, yes or no? And then this is power and ground, so very simple there. This is going to be the input side of the S-series module. We're going to connect power and ground to 2 wire connector to 2 wire connector, and we're going to connect our 3 wire connector to the other 3 wire connector, like so. As far as cleaning up the wire harness goes, I've decided to isolate the orange wire, as they suggest doing, and I've bundled my turn signal wires along with the red and black wire together, because these are all going to be run together under the center console, out the firewall, and into the engine compartment, where the red and black wires will split off at that point to power and ground, and the turn signal wires will then split off at that point to their respective turn signal inputs, I should say. The orange wire is going to be only about this long for application, and we're going to be connecting that to the cab light signal wire that we're going to be splicing into the glove box, which we'll illustrate in a moment. Okay, the next step now is going to be to come in here and pop this trim panel off to go ahead and get the access to the cab light harness. So first of all, reach in with a non-marring pry tool, something that has a nice little angle on there. And I may just come back with you after I pull this off. There's not much room to film and pry sort of with the door kind of half open like this. So I'll probably just come in and pull this off camera, and then show you where all the, I guess the clips are located once I get it off.
Okay, as you can see, I've gotten the bracket pried off here. There's a total of 5 clips, starting from the bottom. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. It's also held on in the rear by the weather stripping. All you need to do is pull forward, and the entire trim piece will pull free. Go ahead and put that down below, and this will now give us access to the wire harness that we need to access in order to put the lights, connect the lights in. Coming in next, now you'll see the harness. We just got to pop that free. We've got the wire, that white wire with the green stripe is what we're going to be accessing. Once we get the harness sort of popped out of that mount, we can pull the loom back and get a little bit more access to sort of make our T-tap connection on that white wire, top row on the left there.
Okay, now that we have the harness disconnected, the sheathing or the tape or whatever pulled back, we have access to pin 1, which is the cab light wire, and for my truck, I'm pretty sure for your truck as well, if it's a 5th gen Ram, it'll be white with a green stripe. We're going to go ahead and cut into that right in the middle. That's where we're going to be tapping into this, so make sure you leave yourself enough on one end of this to make your butt connection, and should be about good. We're going to strip one end, both ends of this wire actually. We're about there. There we go. So we got both ends ready to go for our connection into our S-series module. Go ahead and grab that. Okay, at this point, the blue wire up here, it's isolated by this electrical tape and then this cable sheathing, has already been butt connected to the white and green wire that leads up to the cab lights. It comes in and then goes up along this A-pillar. What I've also done is connected my sort of connectors here to my main wire bundles. This is the orange wire that I isolated earlier and then sheathed. I've butt connected one end already, because do as many butt connections as you can when you have a lot of room to work with. And then I've also covered, I've got 2 sort of floating pieces of heat shrink on here, which will work to sort of cover up this butt connection. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and make these connections and then bring you back in once I've all made them, just to kind of summarize. You see one butt connection, you've seen them all, and I think working in this area, there's not a whole lot to see. Okay, got all my butt connections made. So starting at the input side of the harness, we've got the orange wire that's been isolated running up to the existing factory connector with the sort of incoming signal of the cab light. So it's going to travel through into the harness, and then or I guess into the S-series module, out of the S-series module, and this is where the blue wire is, into the cab light wire, continuing up through the A-pillar. All that's left now is to reconnect the harness, put that back in, and then run this series of 4 wires across the truck and then through the firewall. Now come on down here and you will see I have dropped the glove box. It's very easy to do. You'll see there are these sort of rounded over edges here and here, and then right here there is a hook right there, and it goes over this lip. So drop the glove box out of the way, it'll make running this a lot easier. I plan on running the wire from behind here, behind all of this glove box plastic, and then over to the other edge of this glove box here, dropping it down, and at which point it'll be a fairly simple matter of getting it up behind the console plastic in between the carpet and over to the driver's side. All right, guys, I have the metal rod, which in this case is a steel coat hanger, straightened out and run through. Now I just kind of figured I'd spend a little bit more time here showing you where I've run it. The demonstration video that Boost Auto Parts provides on their website of them installing a prototype set of these is not super specific on where they run their coat hanger. As you can see, I've yet attached my coat hanger to my wire loom, but I just wanted to show you where I was able to run this. So once again, drop the glove box out, makes this a lot easier. I've started this run here from back behind the glove box, around the glove box plastic, and then you can see I've brought the wire loom out just for now. I'm gonna go ahead and attach the whole thing to the back end of this hanger and then pull it through. Now, you'll see this piece of looks like hardware for the radio, the Uconnect. I've just slipped it right behind there. It'll take a little bit of time. It's sort of in this gap here and towards the bottom of the gap where you'll find the hanger will just pass through unobstructed. I'm gonna jump over to the driver's side and show you where that hanger comes out. Okay, on the driver's side now, coming under where the pedals are, and you'll see all the gearing, and just here, see if I can get my finger in frame, here is our coat hanger. So it runs straight through and across there where you can see just a little bit of daylight poking through. So that's our run there. So I'm gonna go ahead, get the cable run through, and then once that's pulled, we're gonna go ahead and then slip it through into this sleeve here. Same sleeve I ran the switches for the Switch Pro through the firewall and into the hood. So I will meet back up with you once I've got those wires run through this grommet through the firewall and into the engine bay.
All right, here you'll see I'm pulling the wire through, and you'll notice there in red I've got some extra heat shrink attaching the harness to the hanger. I've found that if you have a little extra heat shrink hanging around, it does a much better job than tape would, especially if you're going to be trying to pull something through an area that's fairly tight, that has a lot of potential objects that you might snag on. If you have some heat shrink around, do yourself a favor and use that to attach it to your hanger.
Okay guys, that is the close-up of the wires coming through the firewall grommet. Back you up here, and now you can kind of see I've split it here. This is the turn signal wire that's going to be encased in sheathing. I've just got it run over there for now. I have split this And I've got the other 3 wires, power, ground, and the driver's side turn signal wire right here, running over and to the side, kind of around the PDC, around the battery. It is at this point that I have secured it, and then you'll see sort of right here, I've ended I terminated this sheathing, left ground handy because I'm going to tie into this factory ground here, put in power and the left turn signal in this sheathing, run it down here, and it is at this point here where I then have the sheathing kind of turn left with just power only, and I've got the turn signal run down below right where my hand is to that red barrel, and I'm going to jump down under the wheel well and kind of show you what we're looking at. This is my wheel well, and for 2023, at least on the limited trim, I don't know if this is going to be here if you have, say, a tradesman through a Laramie or a Laramie Longhorn, but on the limited trim with the specific limited headlights, the very specific, very important difference I'll highlight now is when you're looking down on top of your headlight in the Boost Auto sort of video tutorial, that headlight connector is just down here. I will put an arrow on screen right here of where it should be, at least if you have like a 2019 through 2023 Laramie or below trim. I will throw an arrow on where that connector would be normally, and that's where the connector is in the Boost Auto video tutorial. For me, my headlight connector is in a much harder to reach spot. So if you have a limited trim truck, this might apply to you. Now I've got this cable run down. I have not finished up the final heat shrink yet, but I've managed to access this without having to unplug the headlight connector. It was very difficult. Let me try and zoom in a little for you guys. There we go. The turn signal wire we're going to be tapping is 5th from the left. So I have a 16-pin connector. The row of wires closest to me begins with a black wire on top. We ignore that row. We're looking at the row farthest from me, and specifically the turn signal wire is the 5th pin. So it starts top left. We're going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 over, and for me that is a white cable with a green stripe. And I tried using the T-taps with the that came with this kit. Fine T-taps, I just wasn't able to get the leverage on them to get them to shut and close and lock into place without unplugging this headlight connector, which from this access port is impossible. So what I've done is use this barrel connector, and that actually worked really quite well. So I'm going to go ahead and test everything once I get it all plugged in before I do this final heat shrink, because if it's not working and I need to undo this, that heat shrink is going to cause some problems if it's already sealed off. So I'm going to go ahead and run the other cable here. I'm going to get this wrapped up in some sheathing, brought over and drop down. But I guess what I will show you guys on camera is the removal of this flap. So if you guys do have it, we'll walk through that together. Now I do want to take a moment at this time, since I am going over now to connect the passenger side turn signal wire. If you do happen to watch the Boost Auto Parts install video, that when they're installing their set of prototype lights, the initial sort of recommended approach to getting access to the headlight wiring harness on this side, which would typically be down in here. I'll throw a graphic on screen to show where that goes. It would be very, very difficult to reach just down in here and grab it because this big old air box is in the way. And in order to remove this, you'd have to remove this whole valence, which means popping off all these clips, a few screws and bolts, disconnecting the airbox here, disconnecting all your MAF sensors here, unbolting this, lifting it up. It's a lot to get to. So if you do happen to have this little access port down here, it may just be a lot easier than going through the airbox, which is my goal in terms of doing this. I could have taken the airbox out, but I think it will be much faster not to. So I'm going to go ahead, just because it's so tight, there's not really much to film. I'm going to come back and show you what it looks like once that barrel T-tap is in place. All right, to open this flap, you need to first remove this pin, which has one of these interconnectors. It snaps out like this. Now, come in behind it, try and rotate this pin free, and eventually it will pop out and the flap will come loose. Flap out. This is how the pin works. It's meant to, I guess, pop out all the way if you want to have the pin just easily swing free, and it only goes back together one direction. So there we go. So I'm going to go ahead, find the headlight pin, get that barrel tapped, and then run the wire for this side as well. Okay, I know I said I'd just kind of come back and show you the T-tap once it was installed, but fortunately this opening here allowed for me to get two hands in and actually unpin this really stubborn locking tab and sort of remove the headlight harness itself, which is going to make the whole thing a lot more fun. So in terms of figuring out which pin it is, it's the fifth over, the fifth pin on the top row as you look at it, where the top row is the row with the tab. So this is the top row. We're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's the white wire with this tan stripe. So we're going to isolate that and try and get our barrel tap in there without having to remove any of the existing harness. Just kind of pinch that up a little bit and then rotate it such that the barrel is beneath, just like so. And this is the beauty of these barrel taps. The next step will be to take the sort of pointed end and screw it into the barrel tap. This will puncture the sheathing on the cable, making for a good tapped connection, as you see there. And then what you'll do is, on this stripped end, just kind of fold it into a bit of a wonky mess, kind of fray it, splay it out a little bit, make it so that it's easy for these wires to interface and contact that central metal core, and then plug internal screwing mechanism into the barrel, and that will cinch down on the cable, confirming our connection, completing our connection. So I'm gonna go ahead now and just wrap this cable in sheathing and then clean things up, and we'll be able to test it out. All right, like I mentioned earlier, have the wires teeing off here. This is the passenger side signal. Everything else comes over here. We've got the ground jumping out here. This is where my ground connection is made. Everything else runs forward from there. This is power. I have yet to finish closing this off. And then we've got the driver's side signal dropping way down in somewhere into that mess. I'm gonna come through here, make this a little bit cleaner, just kind of swing this around, and then what I have done already is sort of tie off the passenger side cable to some existing harnesses you'll see there, running it across. And really, if you're looking to copy my cable routing, go ahead. That's why I'm kind of showing you this part in detail. I've got an existing sort of harness tie here that I've zip tied to. Ran it through the frame there, and then through the body, fished it through, and then dropped it down. So I'm gonna go ahead and finish up my connections in the hood here, and then we'll meet back up with you to test these guys out. Okay guys, we're done. Let's test this out. From Boost Auto Parts, the sequential switchback cab lights. Let's see how these look. we go. We got the startup sequence. Come up nice and close here on them. They're very intense white. There you go. They're very intense white. A lot more directional than the old cab lights, as you can tell. There's just blacks around. They point basically straight forward. You got a little bit of a reflection off the cab roof there. I'm really pleased with the look. Generally speaking, I like Boost Auto Parts stuff. I've had them on my old truck, on the cab lights. They had switchback cab lights on the turn signal mirrors. They were bomb-proof. I'm hoping for pretty much the same out of these guys. Not expecting any leaks. I've had leaks before on cab lights, and I don't want to see any more here. These guys look like they will run really, really well without leaking. I've already tested the lights themselves on a car wash, and I didn't have any issues with any kind of a leak or anything like that. So I think what I'll do next is just show you the sequential switchback function. So right now the running light is white. It matches the headlight running light very, very well. I'm going to go ahead and flip on the turn signal. And there you go. You've got your sequential switchback running light turn signal. So that's very, very cool, not having to run lights through all the way up to the A-pillar in the roof there. Just having to tap the harness into the cab light module down below. Go ahead and get I think what we'll do now is just hit the flashers. See how those look. And there you go, you got sequential flashers on the cab lights. There you go, very, very pleased with how all of this came together. It's installed nicely. The wiring, the S-Series module, all that came together very easily in basically one extra day. Hope you guys all found this video helpful. I certainly did. I'm very, very excited to test out this product. If I have any sort of follow-up info on these lights, how they're working, how they're maybe not working, hopefully not. I don't expect them to. They seem to be very, very well made so far. So I'll certainly be doing a follow-up with you guys in the future. Anyway, if you found this video helpful, give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, and as always, stay tuned for more.